Hey, well, what am I thankful for? Well, I'm thankful for the smiles that have been sent to me. I'm thankful for the good ones up above that have been helping me and them that have been loving me. And I'm thankful for a turkey dinner and that I'm not living in a tent. Excuse me. And I'm thankful that for the promise of a whole bunch of good people out there that are nice, people of light, uh, on the up and out, honest kind of day type, day people. I'm expecting to be more in contact with very soon in my future, to actually be surrounded by the bright light type of people, and that is promised for me. I'm happy that there's been less attacks today, less assaults. Um, uh, I'm happy that it's just an eventuality that we're free of all of these witches and sorceresses and stuff. I'm happy that you know things are going the other direction now, and we're on the up, and everything's going well for us, and the promise of the future. I'm happy about that door being open for me, and it now not closing anymore. It's just going to remain open for us. So I'm real happy about that. And well, I'm happy about some of the changes in the script, that makes it appear as though there's hope on the horizon in regards to these problems, those problems, that other stuff over there. And that's all nice, to see a nicer, you know, story playing out. I still look at it as all completely and totally hopeless because I think basically everyone has been on the journey of way too long, and it's been too much, and there's been way too many scars, and way too many disappointments, and way too much, just all together. Excuse me. And I'm really happy to believe uh, that we're almost to the end of it. We're going to be getting out before too long, um, completely and totally, so we won't be involved in with what appears to be a bunch of darkness and dark, hateful things, acting as though we're supposed to be interacting in some way for our benefit, or something like ridiculous crap of our spiritual development or something, right? Which of course none of them have any. Uh, there's no one of darkness who can claim me as theirs in any way, shape, or form, because I'm not of that tribe. I'm not of that deal. We're of the other stuff, the tribe of light. So I'm very happy about that, and that's being reiterated, and it's only a matter of time till we're good and gone, and that's finalized forevermore. I'm happy about that. Um, the Yeah, I'm happy there's going to be choice, and that we'll just be able to move on past it. I don't really think that it's a matter of people. I don't think there's anything to fix. They're like, why aren't I think it's over. It's what it is. I think you can take things so far, and then well, it's like there's nothing really to fix because there's nothing there to fix. It's all just a bunch of junk. There was never anything of any value there. That nothing, no good things happened, and you can't say that any of it had any value. Or you see what I'm saying? So I'm glad that we're coming to the end of it, and that we'll be able to move on from all of that now and leave the past behind. Although I'm sure it has other plans, and wants to insist on telling everybody some horseshit lie about how we're in love with them, and I don't know, some other kind of garbage or something. But no one's going to believe that from him anyway. Because heaven has made it impossible for us to be yoked with anything of the darkness. So there's no way we can be partnered with him for anything. That's just, that's done. That's over with. So I'm really happy about that more than anything. As far as dream lives come true and all this and that, and I was like, well, you know what? Once we get to that point where we have some really better eye on the subject and we can see more clearly what the lay of the land is, so to speak, then I guess we could figure something out. But I think it's probably best if we just keep on going higher and higher still, completely and totally, once and for all, out of the reach of all this nearby. And because it goes way higher, but being completely and totally cut off from these others, that these hanger-ons, that's not even of my kind. Yeah, them being cut off from us is probably going to be one of our happiest moments once we know that's been completed and finalized, and they can't be reversed at any point for any reason. Yay, complete separation, yay. That would be the best. That would be isn't that something, that now your dream life is what? Just to get free of all the damned that you've been surrounded by for as long as you can remember. Wow. It's like, heaven, here I come, What am I thankful for? Well, you know what? It could be worse. It could be worse. And I guess that's what people have to remember, it could be worse. And a lot of them should know that unless they, know how to show respect, then it probably will get worse too. But that's one of the things I heard earlier, is they were saying that, well, some of the people, like they were talking about women that don't show any respect, and that's why they get lots and lots and lots of dates until the point where they're not getting any dates anymore, but they never get married. It's because they're very pretty and they have a very pretty face or whatever, but they don't show any respect to anyone. So of course, why would they get married? But when I look at it, it's just like, man, you know what? It's like, who cares? You know what I'm saying? It really can. I think that's how a lot of divorces finally do happen, is both parties finally get to the point where they're like, oh, I just can't even care anymore. There's nothing for us to save here, That's not exactly a fa la 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 joyous moment to think of, is it? Again, I think it really goes back to not just so much, the psychological programming that the ladies might be receiving across from the tube. It's a spiritual thing. If your spirit is of peace, okay, and you try to understand that while your emotions are fantastic, what would life be without emotions, right? That's also a weak point when it comes to the darkness. That's one of the places where, they want to try and manipulate through your emotions. So, you can become addicted to revolving melodramatic cycles of, that are very emotional, and, people have act out in different ways and say different things. It's all very intense, and then you hope to, I guess, continue to repeat that cycle again and again forever with them, until you both have become so worn out that you just couldn't give a damn about having a relationship with anyone ever again. I think maybe that's the ultimate goal for the demon that is in him and her, that keeps them hanging on, going round after round after round after round. And I would redirect, you back to Big Trouble in Little China, where Mr. Lo Pan was talking about, his goal, which was to get the green-eyed woman, and marry her so his curse could be broken and rule, the world from the grave or whatever it was. His plan was, and as he says, he's talking to Mr. Burton. He says, but it's we keep trying. It's just. It so seldom works out between men and women, but like fools, we keep trying. Well, you see, we don't have to be fools. We can look at the lay of the land as what's being depicted. Okay? And even if what's being depicted on the screen is not what it is, if that story is creeping into all parts of the stories on the screen, then that means that is what they're being fed out there. And that is what they're going to begin to think is normal and what or to expect. If it's real love, then he'll be able to take you doing this, that, or another shit test and this often and or this and or will blow up in a very specific way once he finally gets to the point where he's not going to take anymore, because he's going to not take anymore, because you're going to have to test him till you find out this and find out that and find out all these limitations and that, or break him or the relationship, or and you know what, anyone knowing is more than likely going to after the first test if not if not the first one, then soon they're going to figure out that, oh, they're insane. That person's demonized and is being controlled by demons into self-destructive behavior, behavior that is destructive to the relationships, to the health, to the mental health, to their mental health, and ability to form lasting emotional connections that are satisfying, deep, and kind of truly validate you. Something that's actually safe, um, reliable, dependable. Or, well, you know what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people out here who they're made crazy, and the reason why is because they've got way too much damned information and way too many different ways to think about it, and way too many options. And that's why this whole thing of, they're all going to be 45 and single and blah, 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 or, you know, without ever having children and never having been married and this, that, and another, and the blah, 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 the end of the world type of stories. It's, I do believe the way I was being, in retrospect, introduced to each chapter as, here's this new technology, Tom. Did you notice this, Tom? In retrospect, I can see where they were like saying, here's another one of those Illuminati game cards, that just got tossed down, played. The microwave was invented. Dun dun dun. Um, and that all this is an eventuality, and that the only way that you can have a bunch of humans live out their lives happily, okay, is with a narrow scope of information and ways to think about things, and you have to make the world smaller rather than beyond imagining, how. I mean, at this point, there are some people who can sense the wisdom in a simple life, okay, especially if they're gifted spiritually. What I'm seeing is there's a whole bunch of people out there who are on the eternal search for some type of perfection or for some type of healing, or for more power and control, which is probably the healing that they're after. And because of the emotional issues incurred, blah, 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 and or the damages taken. So I think basically a lot of people are looking at the world and the world around them, and then how it's working, and how they can operate within that as being dysfunctional and or overly complicated or ridiculously challenging, depending on what sphere we're talking about. In other words, if you were looking at it from the overview, from a God's eye view, you'd see that what happened is that since the darkness got to rear its ugly head up, somehow convincing people it was something to follow and listen to, the world has become a much more stressful place with a lot less satisfactions, a lot less happiness, a lot less peace, and a lot more dissatisfaction and unhappiness and loneliness instead of togetherness. And it doesn't look like the witch and the wizard, or I mean the devil and his horror witch of a daughter, progeny or protege, maybe both. I don't know. It looks like the darkness can't produce much that is worth anything, other than as a novelty to go and visit for an evening scare, to put everybody back in their place and let them know this is where it's all going if you don't toe the line. Everybody play along with the rules, otherwise it's going here to the Red Lodge. Damn, witness it, look. Could you imagine large groups of people voluntarily leaving technology behind for a simpler life, having experienced it all, voluntarily leaving behind all kinds of sociological freedoms to be as whatever they want to be, and instead opt for joining a society that were more about us all conforming to a specific pattern of interaction, where class was revealed in how you conducted yourself, and that class was a thing. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine people voluntarily leaving the world that is created, that is depicted on the screen, for another world that would be so infinitely more restrictive? Could you imagine that? I can. I can imagine that I could tell them why they'd want to, too. Why they'd want to leave behind the cell phone and this and that and another and blah, 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 and the damn television, too. And I can imagine that world and living in that, and I can imagine what that'd be like, a lot happier. But now, would it be all there was and complete and total free will to choose, which is not, because they're not being able to choose. Actually, they're being uh, railroaded into choice that they're not even aware of. So yeah, yeah, I can imagine it. How about you? Could you imagine a world without television? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine a world in which perhaps the television was still there, but it was very limited, and it got shut off after a certain time of the day or night, like at midnight or something. And the programming on there was extremely limited in what it could be depict. In other words, it was pretty much censored. Could you imagine that? And it had to be very moral, you know, and not depict, insanity and aberrant behavior and thought as anything admirable or even to be sympathized with. Could you imagine that? I could imagine it. Yeah, I sure could. And the reason why I can imagine it is because I know what is happening. I know I've witnessed it. It's easy to see what they do, and it's not a hard formula. The thing of it is they've run out of juice, and society's no longer really truly following along with what the programming is, regardless of what the examples, whether it be interracial marriage. I know, they're pushing interracial couples, God, like crazy for the last few years, but that's still not going to be any more popular than it ever was. Um, because people are looking at television now and the screen, and they're wondering what is that on the other end of the other side. Is it evil? I mean, because people are believing in evil again, aren't they? Since there's so much of it and it's so obvious. So the longer the story went on without us getting to whatever it is we were to get to, the good stuff we were supposed to get to, the more that the enemy has undermined themselves to the point where I don't know if there's any recovery left for them. I don't see how it could ever go back to, yeah, no, I don't see how. In other words, I do believe video has reached the pinnacle, the zenith of its power because it's being rejected now, having been found out for what it is and could be. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. And may you find actually the unconditional love that you speak of. And that it be not something that you're stealing or killing to enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.